We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk.
Hey, welcome to another episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
Boom. Let's rock and roll. We got a good packed show for you guys. Carrera GT talk. Another guy trying to scumbag a country and sneak a car in.
Save some tax money.
Yeah, and blanket with it a Porsche. We have some Manthey talk. 2020 Carrera S manual has hit, I guess, the most important people, right? Car and driver.
Yeah.
They're
some journalists.
They're the end all be alls. So they have some interesting facts and things to talk about the manual, and then we'll highlight those. And then Porsche factory racing is doing some new exhaust work, so we'll debate that.
Yep, GT program is going away. They're doing some new engineering.
Yeah, we'll save that for that'll be lengthy, I'm sure, the talk on that. So let's get rolling. So abandoned Carrera GT, not the first time we've heard of an abandoned Carrera GT.
No, we kind of talked about our license in the link, and we all dismissed it. It's both of I did, and then we're like, oh, it's the one in Brazil.
When he says we, he means him.
Yep,
not me.
I don't know,
because I hadn't seen the link yet, but I was aware of the one in Brazil. If a little bit of backstory, so we'll fast forward you and give you the cliff notes on that. Years ago, there was a white Carrera GT that was abandoned in Brazil. Not necessarily abandoned, more like seized from customs is the probable thing what happened there, because it's still in customs possession. Many YouTubers have talked about this car, try to ascertain the car to see if it was even in existence, what have you. Only photos are out there. No one's currently seen the car, but apparently it's in a customs warehouse being held still and not being released, for the reason being that it was trying to be brought into the country under some other name than it was. So they were trying to disguise the car, and I guess it was uncovered of what kind of car it was, so then it was seized. So there was fraud charges, and now the car just kind of sits in purgatory.
Seems to be a theme these days.
Yeah, so that's the story behind that car, but that's not what we're going to talk about. What we're going to talk about is the abandoned Carrera GT that is in China. So apparently there is a very similar situation. However, this isn't a custom seized car at all.
Nope.
This car was registered. It was being used. It was all of those things.
One owner, I think.
Yeah, one or two owners. The car went to a dealership. Then this is where it kind of gets a little bit loose with information. So, forgive us on that. We're providing you what we have. The car around 2007 goes to a dealership, a high-end dealership, and gets taken in. So it's inside the showroom. So we don't know if it's on consignment. We don't know if the dealership actually owns the car. No history on that part. But anyways, the story is it arrives in 2007 from someone who owned the car. Already it was registered in the country. They don't know if they were just storing the car. They don't know if they were selling the car. That is unknown to everyone at the moment. Like, so much time has passed. Nobody really knows the story behind that. Anyways, a little bit of background on this car. It's a Zanzibar red metallic. If you know anything about Carrera GTs, there are so many of them made in silver because that was the launch color. It's very difficult to find in the 1,200 some odd, 70, I think, what were made. 1,270, I think, is the exact number. A PTS example. And within that, because you got to think about the times too, this is, this car was made 04, 05, 06, and PTS wasn't really a big thing back then. This is the same category, a lot of things that a lot of the GT3s were falling into during that time. PTS wasn't like a really big thing that was happening. There were also
a special car just in general. So to get one,
exactly.
One and get a color you wanted.
Yeah, I think people were happy to get one and happy to get an allocation, and they weren't going to basically press their luck, so to speak, saying like, well, not only do I want one in this color. Anyways, the point is it's Zanzibar red metallic. They only made 3 in Zanzibar red metallic. So right now there's 2 in the world floating around somewhere in somebody's garage somewhere. And this third one is just sitting in purgatory in China. Has been sitting there since 2007. The theory behind what happened here, the little bit of background on the dealership. Dealership's not active currently. 07, 08, the collapse of the world market essentially happened. So this dealer essentially went out of business. However, the cars are still there. So no one's seized possession of them, which is odd. In addition to that, this car isn't the only car just kind of sitting around. There's like a 550 Maranello California Special in there. There's a Z06 in there, an 05 sitting in there. Aaron and I are kind of thinking the guy who either abandoned this, Carrera GT and is either in jail somewhere or at the bottom of the ocean or fed to alligators somewhere, owned all three of these cars because they're all still in the same showroom, just kind of sitting there.
Might have been the dealership owner. Like,
it could have been.
That would kind of make sense, at least from that point where he owns it. He's got to get out of there because
for whatever reason, who knows, bankruptcy, whatever he owes, who knows. On the flip side of that, during that same time, the Chinese government was cracking down in people with excessive, I guess, luxuries, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know about China, China is a communist government, so they still can control the general populace in any way, fashion that they want. They just flex, and then it happens. So this could be a little bit of that, too. This guy could have got flexed on, and maybe he fled the country. And he left his possessions behind, and he never wants to re-enter the country because he's not worth for him maybe getting arrested and going to Chinese prison or something like that. So who knows what the story is? Nobody seems to know. The reason why I bring this up is these cars are in such low production. Now, the Brazilian car and this car are definitely tales of two different stories.
Yep.
However, they share commonalities in the sense that they've been abandoned.
And you can't get them.
And they're in purgatory. And it seems like they're going to live in purgatory forever. Don't you think that's kind of odd? Like,
yeah, you think
it's such a low number car.
Of,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess maybe not as odd as if you're looking at it outside, but it is kind of odd, first of all, because there's so few of these in the world.
To have two stories that are similar.
Yeah. And who knows how many more of these are out there? Because we all know about cars being abandoned in Japan because after time, the tariff on it.
Yeah, because
older cars get more and more.
Miles,
older cars get more and more expensive to tax tariff there. Same thing happens in in the Saudi and Dubai and Kuwait and those areas. Those guys literally buy $600,000-$700,000 cars, and after a few years, they don't want to register them. They don't want to. They don't sell them. They just abandon them.
Just goes in the collection.
Well, not even that. They just park them on the side of the road and sand gets to them and destroys them. I mean, I've seen multiple pictures of cars. I mean, they're not valuable now, but they might have been at the time, like 360 Modnas, things like that, just kicked to the curb, sitting out there, decaying. What do you think this is? Is this kind of a combination of stuff? Is somebody so wealthy that they don't give a shit? Do you think somebody's on the run? What are your thoughts behind this? Why does this happen?
It's an awesome story that somebody's on the run, but
yeah.
I think somebody might have just fell on hard times with the economy. I think that was pretty much they're done. Yeah. They're out.
But not. The car still has value though. Like, I mean, how do you?
But yeah, I guess a combo.
It's an asset, right? I mean,
they might if it was theirs if it wasn't on consignment. But then if it was on consignment and it was somebody else's, would they come get it?
Or like I said, maybe they were a drug dealer. Maybe they were, an import-export kind of guy, in air quotes. And maybe he was about to get exported, so he decided to disappear.
No exporting? Importing.
And just said, well, that's a loss. At least I'm alive.
Yep.
And we have friends who... and where I can share a common story to actually put facts to fiction here is we have a friend of ours who works for a very prominent tuner shop in South Florida, and we call them hot boys down here, dope boys, whatever. These guys get a little bit of money, because they're moving drugs, whatever they're doing something illegal, and these guys are into cars, are into flashy stuff. So since he owns a tuner shop, it's not uncommon for somebody at the time, a brand new Lamborghini Gallardo would come into his shop and they're like, we want to do a twin turbo kit on it. Okay, that's a $40,000 upgrade to do this and do that. I don't care. He just pays it all in cash. Okay, well, it's going to take us X amount of weeks to do the car, make sure it's tuned, all this kind of stuff. And then the guy is never heard from again. Well, then they have a mechanics lien on the car. I come to find out the guy gets arrested for moving kilos of cocaine. Arrested. This isn't a one-time deal. He has shared multiple stories that this has happened at his location, not saying anything about what they do from a business, but he's saying that kind of business with
Happens.
high-end cars,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon to have people doing illegal activity and then bringing them a car, and then the person getting, detained
Yep.
and taken to prison, and now their commodity
Well,
or
that's true,
their
too.
stuff
Like,
is sitting at wherever they ended up dropping the car off.
Exactly.
At.
And even if the dealership guy knew that he was in cahoots, or whatever you would say, with those people and consigning the cars, or just trying to launder money, or however he was trying to get money for the cars, he may have just said, "Nope, I'm good. I'm out." Just wash his hands of it, and knows that if he couldn't get the money out of him.
Yeah, it's like that movie. I'm dating myself. That movie Heat with Val Kilmer and Al Pacino
Yep.
and Robert De Niro. Be able to walk away 10 seconds flat from any situation. Can you do that? Maybe that's what happened here. Maybe this guy was like, you know what? I got a go bag. I got my passports. I got my offshore accounts.
I got the other 2 Zanzibars. I'm not worried.
Exactly. Cars don't mean anything because I'm not going to jail for the rest of my life, and I'm not rolling on somebody, and I'm not getting killed. See you the F later. Yep. And that's might have been happened here. But the reality of that situation is that it's probably more of that based off of what we've heard from our friend who works at this place where they actually do these high-end builds, these custom cars that come in and they get $100,000 worth of customization just on motor work done.
Well, I mean, the sad part is that nobody else is recognizing that this is a thing. There's no legal way to get the car out. Like, nobody can just go, "Hey, this can be auctioned," or "This can be." There's
let's put it back in circulation, right?
way
Yeah,
to
I
get
agree
these
with
things.
you. I agree with you. Especially after this much time has passed. We're not talking about something that happened last year.
Yeah.
I mean, this car's been abandoned that they know of since '07. I mean, that's 13 freaking years ago. We're over a decade.
And it looks clean too.
And nobody, because
Super
it was inside. It's still inside at a dealership, stored. So whatever dust accumulates with their ventilation system inside that dealership is on those cars. I mean, there's no other cars in there except the cars mentioned. However, like you said, you would think that these governments, whether it be Brazil or China or whoever, acknowledging the speciality of these cars, of all the cars, and maybe even just putting more money back into the government to say, okay, yes, we own the cars now.
We're gonna
we have seized
either
these.
we own it or we're auctioning it.
We have seized these cars as a country.
Yeah.
They're ours. So now we're going to sell them. You don't have to sell them within country. We're going to send them in a RM Sotheby's, worldwide auction.
I'm surprised.
Who cares where it goes? We're going to retitle the car. It was a seized car. Yes, no accidents. But yes, now we just made $500,000 as a country. Now, granted, as a country, those are small dollars. But it's still something, if you own it and you possess it as a country, just get it off your plate. Move it on. There's tons of people that would make this happen. They wouldn't even have to waste dollars.
A country yard sale.
Yeah, they wouldn't even have to waste dollars trying to sell this, because there are tons of people in the world that chase cars like this.
Well, you think the museum
would do the lead work
the museum might come in and say, "Hey, we want this because it's Zanzibar red." I mean, just because they probably have 00000, but whatever.
But then you get into legalities and, like you said, the red tape and all the other crap that goes into these stuff. I've never gone on these wild goose chases, but I've heard other YouTubers that have talk about the difficulties of trying to navigate something like this, because when you're in another country, first of all, when you're foreign, they won't even have anything to do with you. They're just like, get out of here. I mean, they won't even see you. And then you get somebody maybe in the inside leg that's in the country, and they're in the inn, and things are just done so differently everywhere around the world. So they have their own rules, and now you have to try to navigate those rules to try to maybe get the car out. And you keep running into roadblocks, and I think over time people just get frustrated and they give up.
Yep.
If somebody was maybe to see this through, maybe you could pull this car out of there. But I mean, it would probably take a lot of work. It would probably take a lot of inside people that you knew. You'd probably have to pay some people off.
Sounds like a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah, you'd have to probably pay some people off. You'd have to make friends with. I mean, this is probably a long move. This isn't something you walk in and you come out in the next few months with. This is something you walk in to try to do. In 3 years, you can pull this car out of there. That's how much work this is probably going to take. But it's out there now, so maybe somebody will move on it. I mean, at least this one is in a better location than the Brazilian one. Brazilian one is in kind of like a holding. I mean, it's covered, but it's in imagine an export-import warehouse with a tin roof where forklifts are coming in and out of, and it's just been sitting in there decaying. That's what the Brazilian one is. At least this is in an enclosed, closed-up dealership.
I think somebody in China is going to be like, "Yep, I'm a Porsche fan and I want that.
Or somebody in the Far East who has some connections to make this happen. Somebody who speaks the language, somebody who's a diplomat, or somebody who knows somebody. They could probably pull this off. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting story. I'm glad you brought it to me because it reminded me of the Brazilian car. Like, that's why when you said that, I said, oh, it must be the Brazilian car. But then when I read the article, I was like, this is not that car. This is actually way more rare.
Yeah, this is way
and this is a totally different circumstance. So
which makes you wonder how many more of these cars are out there like that. So of the 1270 that were made, how many?
And maybe not even just Porsches.
Yeah.
Because think of it. I told you there's a Ferrari and a Z06.
Yeah, there's a lot.
How many other cars,
just
special cars from other brands in the world that are just hidden? Or not necessarily hidden, just abandoned and basically living in a purgatory because they cannot be owned or driven or registered. Or
almost like a claw machine where you can see it.
It's just weird, yeah.
Nope.
Like these cars have been shelved permanently, and there is no owner. It's almost like the lost toy box or something like that. Nobody's claiming that stuff. Really, really weird. Which takes us to our next topic, which shares some commonalities with the topics that we're talking about, but it's totally different.
Just being illegal. That's what it shares.
Well, I think it goes to import, export, like holdings is what where we're going.
I can't
with
stop thinking of Seinfeld when you say that.
Yeah.
I'm an importer. Not an exporter? Importer.
So in the Philippines recently, some gentlemen bought a 620R McLaren to import in. I don't know if you know what a 620R, but it's a very rare McLaren. There's only a handful of them in the world.
Robert's got one.
It's basically a GT3 of McLaren.
Yeah, it looks fairly. Actually, it looks kind of similar to the GT1.
Okay.
If you wanted to.
Yeah, it has that top snorkel.
It's got the top snorkel. It's kind of some of the same era.
Yeah, and the point behind this is a lot of countries, excluding our own, have a very high tariff when you import a car, any kind of car, not even just a car at this magnitude. Yeah. So it's a set rate. So it's for example, Philippines is 51% of the value of the car, meaning like if you bought a $100,000 car, it's going to be $51,000 tax to import the car. Pretty steep, right? Pretty steep. So this guy, hey, I'm a smart guy, right? I know what I'm going to do. What other mid-engine car doesn't cost that much? That is this. Well, guess what? If you're saying Porsche came in, you're the big winner because he wrote down on his import documents when he bought this car. So the people that were at the dock in the Philippines when they were going to process this car, they saw the paperwork. It said this was a Porsche Cayman.
Yep, GT4.
That's about as far as he went as far as trying to disguise the car. Because when they opened the crate to look at the car, it still says McLaren on it. On the wing, it says 620R. Like, he didn't do anything. He didn't even try to, like, take the decals off the car. He didn't even try to, like, mask the car at anything. I don't know what he would do from that end, but at least to take the decals off, right? Where it doesn't say, like, 620R on it. So, when they saw Porsche Cayman, even in the Philippines, they have cell phones and smartphones. So, it wasn't lining up.
It turns out they can Google.
They Googled a 620R McLaren, and guess what popped up? His car looks just like a 620R McLaren. Huh. Well, that doesn't match Porsche Cayman, what he says is in processing docs. Yeah. Now we have a red flag. Let's dive deeper and figure out what's really going on here. So what he was trying to do was evade the 51% tax because I think this car cost $350-something thousand brand new. So he was trying to avoid something to the effect of like $180,000 in taxes to bring the car in. But he was trying to just pay $50,000, like on a Cayman essentially.
Yeah.
All right. It was probably even less than that. It's probably going to be like 30 or 40,000, whatever it was. The point is now, because he tried to do that, he is in trouble with the federal law. So he has created a federal fraud.
Yep. And
they have seized the car. So that's the end thing about being seized. Like now another car, a very rare car outside of Porsche, this is a McLaren, is seized and probably going to live in purgatory for the rest of its life too.
They might get auctioned though.
Maybe. But like, why didn't any of those other cars get auctioned? Why didn't the cars get auctioned that were seized before?
It's true. They might not.
You know why they're probably not being auctioned? Because it's not worth their legal headache to try to maybe sell the car off, because if somehow the buyer can find a way from a legal standpoint, like who originally owned that car, to either pay the fees to get it back out or whatever, they probably don't even want to get in a battle like we sold the car off.
Yeah, you mean the owner? Yeah,
they don't want to
get
get in it. They're like, okay, we'll just hold it forever. We don't care.
So they don't want anybody to come back. Hey, that was mine. Why'd you sell it?
Exactly. They're like, we don't even care. We'll just hold it forever. We don't give a shit. It's just a car.
But you were telling me, so this guy, to avoid taxes, decides he needs to do some prison time.
Well, the thing I don't understand is, clearly, this guy didn't do the research on what the crime penalty was for what he was doing. Because had he, I want to believe, would have just paid the money. Because if you're telling me that I can, even if he had to finance it,
Yeah.
like, okay, I finance a car at $350,000. You can't come up with $180,000 to import the car. Well, he already knew that to begin with. So then why would you even risk it? So don't buy the car.
You don't think he had boys at the dock like, hey, I'll hook you up. Don't worry about it.
Clearly not. Or number two, if you see jail as an option, if you get in trouble for something, that should always be a deterrent for you to not do the thing that you were going to do. And not only, I'm not even talking about like you're going to like county lockup for 24 hours. This is federal fraud that he has committed in the Philippines. And if you don't know anything about the Philippines, remember, 20 years, actually longer than that, 25 years ago, this is the same country that caned a military's kid's son for spray painting on a wall. So they take crime there seriously. They do not screw around. So this guy's going to get the book thrown at him. This isn't going to be a slap on the wrist. I mean, if they caned a kid for spray painting a wall,
yeah, this guy.
What do you think this guy's going to get?
Defrauding them of thousands of dollars.
You're defrauding them of $180,000. You're not going to get away with that. So the point is what an idiot, right? So, so are we thinking that this guy is also a dope boy and he just doesn't have enough sense and he's moving drugs too? Like,
I think it's not his first rodeo importing cars in. He's gotten away with it a few times. That's what I think.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a really weak attempt at trying to like make something happen here. Like you call it a Porsche Cayman and it says McLaren on it and it says 620.
I would just go with a McLaren and then say it's a different model number. I'm like, oh no, you know.
Well, not even that. How hard would it be? Like we all know, like I'm pretty sure that wing and then that decal that's on there, it's a laminate. Like I'm sure.
Yeah, he could have got it wrapped.
He could have taken that off and just said Porsche on the wing.
100%.
That could have saved him probably a little bit.
Unless they check bends and all that stuff, you know.
Which I'm sure they do.
Really do.
Which I'm sure they do.
100%.
Which also goes back to the fact of how stupid are you, dude? Come on. Come on. Really, bro?
Yeah.
Really? And what are you doing? Like, the Philippines is a small place. What the hell are you doing with 620R there? It's not enough road.
Where are you driving?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
It's filled full of islands. What are you doing? Anyways, that's our... I know if you paid attention last week, we had a Florida Man dumb episode. So this is turning into a reoccurring thing, even though this is that Florida Man, Filipino man dumb episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with some more pertinent, not funny, like normal stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys listening to PCAR Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Check us out on YouTube. We release videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Help support the channel. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment. We really appreciate that. Again, circling back to pcartalk.com. There is a newsletter created on there. Please put your information in there. That way we can keep you up to date on anything that's coming forward and anything that we're going to be doing moving forward and all the exciting things that are coming out. Now back to the show. We're back from break. And before we get started, I want to thank Lori Crawford and the Crawford Realty Group. They actually sold my house recently, I want to say about a month ago.
Yeah, Trinity Lake.
Yeah, so that's awesome that they've done that. They're a sponsor of the show. Give them a shout. If you're looking for a house, they actually specify in car guys' houses. So if you need something like a 4-car, 6-car garage, baller house, that's kind of what they do. And they move houses, man, because they moved mine in 28 days. So she gets it done.
That was quick.
Yeah, she gets it done. And, it was a favorable area, so it worked out well. But they're great people to work with. Her and her son, David,
Old DC, as we call him.
Yeah, he's a good friend of ours. I know you've heard of us refer to him on the show about his Mach GT3 RS, even though it's a base Carrera.
Baddest GT3 I know about.
Just getting all over him, man. I just love bashing on that guy. But he's a good person, and so is his mom. And she really, really is top notch. And I'm not just saying that because of the sponsor of the show. I'm actually was a client of hers, so I'm speaking firsthand. And on top of that, like the other realtor, I'll just tell a little story behind that, is she basically did the other guy's job too, meaning the clients that were buying our house, because it was a VA loan and the guy that was doing it had no idea. So this is where a seasoned realtor really comes into play, because not only was she able to get the deal done because the other people's agent had no idea what they're doing. So she did her work and the other guy's work. Unfortunately, he still took his cut because he's representing somebody else. So the point of that story is that deal may have not gotten done had she not had the knowledge to how to do everything. So it just shows you not all realtors are cut from the same cloth.
True.
And she's very communicative. She walked us through the entire process, and it wasn't like we were having to wait for something to happen. She was always on top of everything, and she's #1 for a reason. So definitely give them a shout. They're a sponsor of the show. We love them. They're like an extended family of ours. But more on the show. Let's get moving. So Manthey Racing, turbo fans for GT3 RS and GT2 RS. So kind of a retro throwback thing. It's coming into light nowadays.
I think they would call them Aero Disc at this point.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. I think that's what they are referring to them as.
I think turbo fans sound better though.
So the point of this is they're really badass looking. And anybody in the Porsche scene, I don't know if you've really gone like that hardcore motorsport, but I have, because I'm kind of a nut job. There are a couple people that make some 3D printing additional aftermarket like turbo fans for wheels. I talked to a guy briefly, could make some for my car, but it's a pretty convoluted process. And what I mean by that is, first of all, the people that are making this stuff, they're pretty shitty at customer service. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And when they finally do get back to you, it's one of those, well, bro, you're going to have to send me the wheel, and then I have to like scan it and figure something out. Okay, cool. You want me to send you $15,000 speed lines through the damn mail, and you're like, okay, bro, I'll scan it. Like, bro, what kind of business are you running? Yeah. So they just bought like a 3D printer, and they live in their damn mom's garage, and they're making 3D printer wheels. Like, I know I'm pretty animated about this because I got pretty pissed off about it because I wanted to get some for the 964 more than a year ago. And I talked to a couple places that were total like shitbags about it, where they were just like, oh, sorry, I didn't see the message, bro. I was like, that was like 3 weeks ago. I totally forgot about that. What are you talking about?
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah, super busy right now making like, you know, like controllers for like Xboxes and stuff and whatever the hell else I'm doing, sunglass molds or... Dude, get your shit together, man. Like, whatever. Anyways, Manthey obviously is Porsche. They're making these...
Essentially.
Yeah, they're making these for these cars. Now, granted, they're only for these cars. They're made of carbon fiber. They're badass. So you're already in the upper level. But I'm saying if you own one of these cars and you're listening, you can take your car to the next level and buy one of these if you have the magnesium wheels on your car, because they only work with the magnesium wheels.
What it does is it actually creates more downforce. It's not a brake cooling thing.
Exactly.
It's actually a downforce thing.
So you don't have the car down some more.
You don't have to run the bigger wing.
So it sucks the car down some more. And they're $4,700, which sounds steep, but they're full carbon fiber. They're like made of they're all carbon fiber.
Yep. They're all business.
Yeah. And they're pretty cool. They're painted specific, which they should be. Obviously, they cost more than some wheels. But if you're curious and you don't have the magnesium wheels on your car, if you want to pick up a set, they're only 18 grand. So pay 18 grand to pay another 4,700 so you can get the aero discs.
Well, I mean, that's why you should search out for the Weissach pack. So.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that was standard with that car. I think it was still an upcharge to get magnesium wheels.
I'm almost positive it's Weissach pack.
Yeah. But you have to have the Weissach pack, I think, in order to upgrade to the magnesium wheels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think you could just get magnesium wheels with a GT3 RS. Maybe you could. I don't know. But I think a lot of people probably passed on that. And I know you can buy them aftermarket because our friend Rick in Sarasota at Porsche, Suncoast Porsche Parts told me
100% has them.
Yeah, he sold two to the same guy in Asia. Maybe the guy with the Carrera GT. He didn't even say. But he said they did go to Asia and the guy bought 2 sets because he wanted to paint a set and then have a non-painted set, because that's, you know, that's the level.
One day.
Like baller level this guy's at. He wanted 2 sets of $18,000 wheels. So this guy's had $36,000 worth just of wheels for his car. Ballin'.
Business.
Yeah, for real, for real. Moving on, car and driver drove the all-new 2020 Carrera S manual. The reason why I'm saying they drove it, because we haven't driven it, so I have to just go based off what they have. Yeah, we'll eventually get it. Well, I don't even think anybody's taken delivery yet in the U.S. I think, you know, so a lot of these places are still kind of think these like big, I guess names I should say, are the end all. Like they should get all the first stuff, right? Because everybody's buying magazines at the magazine stand. I go down and pick up my newspaper on the corner from the Paperboy every weekend too.
Yeah.
Here, extra, pick up your newspaper. Anyways, the point of it is the most highlighted thing in their findings with this car, which I found interesting, and the only thing I'm going to talk about in this, because everything else is pretty straightforward. They highlighted, oh yeah, the 7-speed's great. Of course it was going to be great. What was it going to be, junk? But the important part about this is you can't rev dump the clutch, which I mean, you know, like how you kind of want to hoon a car, you rev it all the way up and you just clutch dump it. This car is programmed to not do that, and Porsche says they programmed the car that way in order to protect the drivetrain. So I found that very interesting, because if you're interesting enough, if you want to be one of those people that you want to kind of clutch kick it, get the ass loose because you have this, you know, 7-speed manual, it's not an option.
It's protecting itself.
Yeah, it doesn't want to break it. So leads me to think that 2 things behind this. Is the drivetrain not robust enough to be able to handle this? Are they're worried about running through a diff? They're worried about running through drive axles, because maybe somebody will get this and, you know, pinging it off the rev limiter and just clutch dump it and then snap stuff, and they don't want to be, you know, fixing stuff like that.
Does it stop you from over-revving? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a 3,500 RPM cutoff from a standstill.
So then would that save you if you leased said Carrera S? Would you then have 0 over revs on a car? I mean,
no, because that's just from a stop. Once the car's in motion, it'll rev all the way out.
Okay, so rev. Okay.
So meaning, like, if your car is stopped and we're sitting there and you're just like, prime example, somebody's leaving a car and coffee and they're like, do burnout, bro, do burnout. And you're sitting there standstill and you just like, rah, 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 and then try to dump it. It won't do it. The car will bog. It'll be, like, and it's programmed to bog. So what they said, at least car and driver said, the only way to really have a fast takeoff is that you just have to ease. You have to ease to slip the clutch.
Let
it out, but like rev in, like almost like not rev it up, but just like kind of let it out, gas in, and then, you know, it'll launch hard, it'll go, but there's no like and then drop, you know, like there's old school style, like where you just kind of like ass is waggling as you go off. Not happening. And the reason why this kind of resonated with me was, you know, that's kind of the point of having a manual, so you can hoon a little bit. The freedom. Yeah, to hoon occasionally, you know, when you want to, not necessarily even if you're in a mountain road and you want to get, you know, you want to dump it on yourself, or you want to do whatever. Like, there is no clutch dumping in this car.
I mean, it's probably a like warranty thing. I mean,
it's 100% warranty thing.
There's probably some safety
they'll throw safety in there, dude, but this is 110% to protect their ass to not have to.
Because really, what is the ratio of manuals they're selling? I mean, I know that we're enthusiasts. We love a manual.
Oh, it's super low. It's super low.
But that person's like, you know what? I want to try a manual for the first time.
It'll be low. Yeah. Like, it's always going to be low. But I guess the point, I guess, the only
you feel like your freedom's been taken away from.
Yeah, the only reason why I bring it up is, you know, what if you're the person that has that car and you want to do those things? How often do you want to beat on it like that?
If it's a software limited thing, it's going to be a software tune that fixes it.
Yeah, more than likely. But you're not going to probably do a tune on it until you're out of warranty, right?
Like everybody, bro, warranty, bro.
Exactly. Warranty. But I think that's the first thing I think of. It makes my ears perk up, because do you don't think the car can handle it? is what I'm thinking from from a manufacturer as a consumer. I'm like, why am I not allowed to do this? Because a car, I'll break it if I do this. Like, why? Why can't I do this?
Yeah, I mean that's quite possible. Like you explained to me, and I didn't think about it. I just thought it was like, well, the PDK can handle it, then the manual should be able to handle it because it's the same drivetrain. But then it's not, to the point that the PDK is going to shift at a certain point and get you in second gear and third gear and fourth gear as fast as it can, whereas first would just you're in first.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how fast can you shift to second? Is it a safe time when you shift it or not? Or did you burn the clutch up?
Well, on top of that too, like when you're with the PDK, the way the synchros are programmed and things like that, it still holds. It's not a full clutch dump because we've done tons of launches too. So it'll hold at that certain RPM, and it's still a progressive like clutch let out and then surge.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's not
See what
all
I'm
the way
saying?
up
It's not
anyways.
like you're not going to ping it off 6,500 or 7 and then dump it, because that's even launch control doesn't do that.
Yeah, it does like 4.
Because it comes up. You've seen it. We've been in the car tons and tons and times of when we've done lots of launch controls on all these new cars, and it goes ooh, whoa, and then it goes.
Yep.
So this is essentially what the same situation is. Like, you're not going to be able to just like slam it down. Like, it just won't take it. So
could be a weak drivetrain then.
Which leads me to believe that you're going to be, if they allowed you to do that, you'd be snapping drive axles, destroying a diff, whatever.
Putting yourself in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think that's kind of a bummer. I want to touch on the bummer part about it too. I know we've talked about it before, but I don't know how many times we've talked about it enough in depth about you giving your opinion on this. How do you feel about this being offered in the Carrera S and the Carrera 4S, but not being offered in the manual? I mean, in the base with the manual.
I don't know. I think that's almost a super win if it's in the base. I mean, that's what I looked for the 997, because I was like, I don't want PASM. I don't want anything. I don't want the
you wanted a driver's
radio.
car.
I wanted everything I could eliminate that may be a problem or roadblock later on or extra cost.
Because you were thinking long term.
Exactly, because I'm gonna change the suspension. I'm gonna change the radio to something I want. Those type things or any of those things that I didn't want. It was fine, and that's what they always tell you. The base car is the driver's car. It's lightweight. It doesn't have all the extras.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit of a weird. I mean, like we said, they probably do the numbers. The PDK probably sells over the manual, but
of course.
But the option to have the manual just seems like a win. It doesn't seem like there's that much effort in a factory line where they can go, oh, there's a manual. It's on the same line as the Carrera S. It's not like there's anything special.
It exists, right? Yeah, exactly. It's not like they have to make another one.
We're not talking about a GT car. It doesn't have to go to a separate plant or anything else. It's on the assembly line.
Yeah.
That
it's on the rack.
The S and the 4S.
It's on the rack. All you got to do is put it in the car.
So, yeah, I think they are missing out from some stance, and I don't know why you couldn't just do.
Yeah, I think the thing that pisses me off the most about this, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too. The thing that makes me the most mad about this on the Carrera S and the 4S, if you want to do a manual, it's a no-cost option, meaning like you can option the car as a manual with no cost. Okay, well you're telling people because they're spending the more money, yeah, that's a no-cost option. Well, you have circling back to your point, you already have the transmissions. Okay. If it's that big of a deal for you and it's all about the dollars and you do not give a shit about the enthusiasts anymore, on your bases. Why don't you just make an upcharge for the manual? Yeah, whatever it may be, like maybe $2,000 or whatever it is. Like, at least give people the option is all I'm getting at. I'm not saying make it no cost. Because, but you know what? If you really don't want to do it, make it a cost option then. Make it say, okay, well, you got to pay $2,500 if you want to go manual in the base car.
At this point,
that's fine. I'll do it because I want it.
That's crazy because at this point, you're at the 992 level. The body's already been changed. It's already widened. So it's the same body.
Yeah.
Your motors are all the same all the way up the lines except for a tune.
Still
until you get to a turbo.
Same 3-liter motor.
So it's all the same car. So why wouldn't you just pop in a manual if requested?
Why not give them the option?
Yeah.
Right? There hasn't, and to be clear, because we've had some trolls chime in, well, you know why they don't make it? Because they make a Carrera T. Hey, everybody who's listening, ass clowns, there's no talk about a Carrera T yet. So that's facts.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
until that happens, that argument does not stand any fucking like ground.
They might not make a Carrera T because I mean, like we know they didn't sell too many of them.
No,
for
I
the
agree.
991.
I agree.
So
I'm saying, you know what, you've seen the
Yeah.
comments. They're like, well, that's saved for the Carrera T. Well, guess what? There is no 992 Carrera T in the lineup
Not
right
yet.
now, and
Yeah.
there hasn't been any talk of a Carrera T coming either. So there's that. If they come out with it, fine, great. Then it's for that car. I get it. But I'm telling you right now, they're not talking about it, and it probably won't happen just based off what Aaron said too. They didn't sell a ton of them. Porsche doesn't like to make crap they don't sell a lot of. They're in the business of selling cars. End of story.
I like testing the waters. Okay, will this sell? Will this not? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. We're good.
Ixo facto, sidebar on that. Buy a Carrera T if you're shopping the
you know
market
what?
for older like cars on 991s because those are going to be special someday.
You know, what would make more sense to me is if they just took down the lines to like not even say Carrera S, and just did Carrera. That's it, and it was the S, powertrain, and then they go from that to the turbo to GT car, 3 and 2 or
Yeah, you're talking about simplification. I'm all about it.
Why? I mean,
We know that's not going to happen.
especially if you're doing the manual and the PDK and the S brand. Why not just cut off the base brand? Why does there even need to be a base brand at that point? Just make that your base.
No, I'm with
That
you.
makes sense.
Hey, I'm a believer, brother. I have been.
So-
Trust me, I'm all for it. I mean, I think there should only be, honestly,
There has to be
there's a 4S,
Has to be
and
4.
then there's an S, and then there's a GTS, and then
Yep.
there's a turbo, and then there's a turbo S, and then there's a GT3.
I think there should be
and then
4.
there's-
There should be the Carrera.
And then there's
S.
a Targa, then there's a Targa 4S, and then there's a,
Yeah, there's the Carrera S. That should just be the Carrera. So it should be the straight
then there's
power.
a Targa 4, and then
If you want all-wheel drive,
then
you
there's
should
a
get the
Carrera
turbo.
4, not S.
Yeah. If you want the all-wheel drive, you should get the turbo. And if you want something crazy, you start getting GT3 RS, because there should be 2 delineations there, so you could have a semi race car to race car level, and then you want big boy, you get a GT2 RS.
Yeah. Oh,
That makes sense.
preach to the choir. But if you're a manufacturer and you make one car, you make different variations of that car. It's almost like you're really good at making that blue
Yep.
T-shirt. Well, it's still going to be blue, but it's going to have different markings on it. So now you have to call it something else to get other people to buy it. Well, this one's softer. This one's faster. This one's lighter. This one wicks more material, sweat
Yeah.
away. I get it. Whatever. You're a manufacturer. You sell cars. I'm not going to beat you up on that. What I am going to beat you up on is when you do stuff like this for the enthusiasts.
The same line.
And you kind of cut their kneys out.
At
At
least-
least give them the option.
Yeah, because if they did, they could just not choose it anyways, and you're still not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
That's the
sense.
thing is like, why isn't the option there? Your goal is to sell cars. If you put a roadblock up for me and I'm a Carrera 992 base model buyer, and now I'm not allowed to buy a manual transmission, I'm out.
It'd be like, if you could get a 992 base, you'd be like, man, it's the most rawest. Before they start going,
Yeah.
Hybrid and all that, what they're going to do.
Well, think about it. It goes back to the genuine
That's the
old
last
school,
Yeah.
how everybody wants to talk about all the time, going back to these early cars, which is fine. I'm not beating them up, but I'm saying, okay, you can get modern day.
That's the only
a
tactile feel.
992
That's it.
2-wheel drive. If they offered it in manual 911 still.
Yeah, that's the last tactile feel because you don't have hydraulic steering anymore. You have everything that can be electrified is electrified up to the point
Exactly.
of the manual,
Exactly.
which I still think is kind of like it's almost PDKized. If you can flat foot a manual, then there's something missing there. You know what I mean? For some of that.
I don't want to harp on it too much. I just think the option should be there. End of story.
It makes sense.
And I've been saying that from the beginning. If you want to upcharge them, I don't care what you want to do as far as a company. At least offer the option. You have all of these other options to do all of this other crazy shit to these cars, but you're not going to give them a transmission option in the base? Come on.
And that would, that might be enough to push them to the S anyways. Like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to charge for this, but then I'm getting extra power. I'm getting extra this, extra that.
That's exactly what they're doing.
You know what I mean?
This is a psychological move
Even if they gave
to push people up. This is 100% what that is.
Well, it would be even more if they did charge for
To
it at the
extract more
base.
money. So in a sense, it's almost kind of like this, right? Like you go to a place and you're a member somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, well, you get a free dinner included with your membership." No, I'm paying for a membership, and you're giving me a dinner. That's
Yeah.
how this works. I don't get a free dinner. I'm paying for the dinner. Just like they say, well, the no-cost option in the manual. No, you're paying because you're buying an S now.
It's already built into
It's
the
built
cost of the
into your
car.
cost because if you buy a 2 or a 4, you were paying up. So the fact of them to come around and try to come around and screw you with some psyops on you and say, well, it's a no-cost option. No, it is a cost option because it's a hell of a bump up from the base to buy that car.
Yeah, it is a pretty healthy bump.
So, and if, like you just said, you're buying the car to get the manual, well, that's the only reason you're buying the car and the power bump. And, okay, you just got taken.
Yeah.
In a sense. Well, I got the free dinner. No, you paid for a membership.
Mm.
And that came with it.
Yep.
That's what happened there.
100%.
Anyways, let's close out. Porsche Factory Racing is testing a new exhaust system for the RSR. Oddly enough, there's a couple races left in the year.
Yeah.
What in the hell? I know we've harped on this and beat them up about this over and over again, but you and I have talked about this before the season started with engineers.
Yep.
And the drivers in the cars, if you guys haven't heard us say this, there's a certain RPM where there's a bad buzz that comes from the side exhaust in this RSR. And it drives the drivers nuts. And it screws their comms up and all this kind of stuff. Do you think this directly relates to that reason alone? That's why they're looking at different options to change the exhaust because the drivers.
I mean, they haven't won this year, but I don't think it's the exhaust fault.
No.
I mean,
we can get into that debate.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the exhaust.
So,
why they haven't won a race.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, we've heard it on our own as far as it's a different sound from what the cars were in the Coke livery of Petite. It's just a different sound. It's not a shrill. It's a low grunt, and now it's on both sides, which is practically driver door to passenger door on those sides. So it's like there's no sound insulation or anything. I would imagine that just reverberates in their cabin, like the buzzing noise they're hearing. They got to do something.
And the next move on that is why now? If they're out of racing, what's the point?
That's true, but maybe they've been working on it for a bit. That's the only thing I think of. Maybe they
like
kind
the
of
minute they
complained
put
about
it in place, they were already working for a fix.
They were like, "Okay, this is terrible. Let's see if we can do anything."
Now
and
the
still
fix
stay
is
in
coming.
election. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Big tape. Lots of red tape. So
I find this to be odd. Is why I bring this up.
Yeah.
This whole topic that I'm bringing.
Why would you even do anything at this point?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's why that point you just said. Season ends in November in Sebring.
Which is super close from you.
Yeah.
No.
It's almost mid-August.
Yep.
There's only a handful of races left. What is the point to change the geometry of this exhaust? However, maybe there is a point to it because you still care about racing and you want to win. So maybe they think it's enough difference to make them win and change out and they want to finish strong. I don't know. But
I mean, none of their club sports, none of anything else they put in customer racing does a side exhaust.
You're right.
Everything. Nothing they do.
And we touched on this, why we think it's a side exhaust, because it's a mid-engine car now.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's
where else is it going to go? Why would you?
You and I have been firsthand. I mean, we've been standing with it within the same room of the engine when they dismantle the car, and we've seen how far up the engine is. It's literally behind the driver.
Yeah,
it's a
Kennedy Boxster came in if it wanted to.
Yeah, it's a mid-engine car. Let's be real. I'm sure that saved weight, like having the exhaust. The cars are fast. This has to be. I think this has to just be a driver concession.
there's
because this
uproar.
really must be taxing on them. I mean, this really must be like beating them down really bad.
I mean, we talked about it too, like sprint races, and it's a couple hours. But then we start doing anything endurance where it's a 6 hour to a 12 hour to a 24
and
hour
that's
race.
probably what they're looking at. They're probably like, well, we got 12-hour coming at Sebring. We got Le Mans. We got all these races coming up that these guys are going to be living in. They're going to be deaf by the end of this.
Even though you have helmets and other things to kind of
but it's still
bury
it's
it.
So wicked.
Yeah.
It's so wickedly you know that, and we know that. The only reason why I bring that up is I find it odd this late, and then them announcing not racing next year too, to do this R&D and development of the change the exhaust geometry mid-season, to not even be racing next year.
It's crazy.
I think it's strange.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
I think they're going to be racing in 2021. Thank you very much. Calling it now.
I hope so.
Calling it now.
I really, really hope so. Yeah, we need something to do.
Don't
right?
make changes if
Yeah.
you're not planning on doing future things.
Yeah, you can't quit on a Rona year. Like 2020 Rona was horrible. You got to come back strong. This is like Rocky losing the title to Mr. T and then having to come back and win it. Like this is you got to come back next year, bro. Like you can't.
If not, 2022 is going to be strong.
Yeah, hopefully. But I don't have anything else. If you don't have anything else, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. Spread the word, and we will see you on the next one.
See you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at pcartalk.com.